How about them Cowboys? It's the Cowboys Squad, sponsored by Game Time. Everything Dallas Cowboys every week. Covering all the big hits and game-changing plays from America's team, the way only the Locked On Podcast Network can. Get ready and squad up. It's the Cowboys Squad Show, starting now.
Well, last week was the full NFL schedule, and today a big day on the Cowboys offseason schedule as OTAs began today at the Star, and that means the Brian Schottenheimer era is underway on the field, and so are we. The Locked On Cowboys Squad Show continues, and as always, we start with a welcome to the co-host of the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast, Landon McCool, and my co-host on the in-season Cowboys postcast, the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. Good evening, gentlemen, to both of you. Coming up on today's show, the very latest with the Cowboys in the offseason, day one of OTAs, more reaction from the draft, and instead of Slim Pickens, how about CeeDee Lamb giving his comments on George Pickens? We got that coming up as well. But, Coach, I want to start with you first this time. OTAs underway today in Frisco. Tell us about that. What's it like? What do you like? And what do you look for? What do you get excited about?
I mean, really, you're just trying to introduce your players to what your expectations are. You're trying to introduce your players to the offense. It's a carryover from maybe what you inserted during that rookie mini camp. Excuse me. You're trying to get those guys to see from a retention standpoint, what did they retain? And then see if you can get guys implemented in with the big group. I'm saying, get yourself maybe 1 or 2 reps with the, what would be considered the ones. I mean, get yourself out there and, it really is one of those things where you're just, as a coach, you're just trying to give them as much information as you can give them, see what they can retain, and then see how it transitions out onto the field. Can it, do they get what it is that you're teaching them? Do they understand what it is as they watch the cut-ups and they see different things in different guys? It's just if you're talking about receivers and how guys run certain routes and what you want cut-ups to look like and how you want it all to really fit and mesh together. And then defensively, hey, are we understanding where we want to line up, how we want to line up, and then just keep feeding them as much information as you can to see from a retention standpoint what guys can retain. I think it's the thing that I can tell you just from my experience. It's always different when you got the older guys now and the younger guys in the room, and so you got to kind of let them feel it out a little bit. You got to kind of it's like introducing new puppies to the herd. I mean, you got to see how it goes, and I can remember, I don't remember who it was, one of the guys, coming in the meeting room, and young guy, and he decides it's going to be cute to fart. And he gets blown up in the situation. And so, it's kind of like the pecking order starts to get put together in the meeting rooms, and guys start understanding what's being expected of them.
Nice. Landon, it's interesting. Players don't suit up, right, in this phase, and there's only a few team drills, and that really doesn't get going until phase 3. And even those, there's no live contact allowed. So I don't know, what do you see? What should we see? What are you hoping to see?
Well, I think Coach summed up pretty well what the coaches are hoping to see. I think for us as consumers or as media or however you're framing it, however you're viewing it outside of the coaching room, you don't get an opportunity, or you haven't really gotten an opportunity to see most of these players throughout the offseason to
Right.
see, you know, how they're developing. I mean, how they look. Has so and so put on weight? Has so and so lost weight? You know, how do they look? And with new players like rookies and free agents, like I think for me, it's really just, you know, I want to see George Pickens standing next to CeeDee Lamb. You know, I kind of want to see just like how their body composition is different, and what does that mean for, you know, maybe how they get deployed and that sort of thing. I think it's individual stuff like that, like checking in on players who you haven't maybe seen, what, you know, how they've worked on themselves over the offseason, and where are the changes made there. And I think, you know, it's very early days. It's the earliest of early days, right? And so you start very basic, like how do these guys look physically, right? How do they look physically with each other? How are they interacting on the field? Does there seem to be, you know, it's hard even to really judge chemistry here because so
Right.
little is happening that it's not like you can get a really good feel for that. But I think you can see, and it's a lot of like the kind of you know, psychological or the stuff that you observe on a training camp that's non-football related. Just how does the guy interact with his teammates, right? Do you see him interacting with the coaches? What's his posture look like when he's interacting with coaches? Does he seem to be taking the information well? I mean, you know, it's little things. You're just trying to kind of build a profile on kind of the new guys and how they're interacting with the guys that you're familiar with, and then just try to get little things out of the early stuff, because, you know, coach is right. There's not much going on. They're teaching these guys how to be, you know, professionals, how to be around professionals, how to practice. Like we talked about this before. Like, you know,
Yeah.
a lot of the early stuff is literally, how does practice go? Where do I go when the first whistle is blown? Where do I go when the second whistle? What happens after individuals? Like which one of us goes to special teams drills and which one of us goes to, you know, starting offense walkthroughs? Like it's that kind of sorting things out and getting, you know, everything down before the real heavy install stuff happens, which, you know, happens pretty quickly. But I think, you know, today we're talking about literally day one of OTAs. It's a lot of, you know, where's the bathroom? Like, where's my locker? You know, that sort of thing.
You know, the other thing too is with the Stars being in the NHL playoffs, I mean, you'll start to see kind of groups of guys that are, you know, going out, hanging out with one another. Maybe I think they showed them the other night at the Stars game.
Yeah.
You know, they were up in a suite. There's 12 or 15 of them. And I mean, those are the kind of things that you want to see. And then you do want it to carry over, because, you know, the one thing I can tell you is when you get that many egos in one particular room, it kind of has to fit together. And, you know, that's why you see certain guys, you hear it all the time. This guy didn't fit. He wasn't a real fit here. Why wasn't he fit? Because, you know what? He didn't fit with what the team was doing outside of football. And the other thing is, when you start thinking about spending, you know, a better part of 7 months with some guys every day, you're eating with them every day. I mean, you're seeing them every single day. They're in the training room, bumping into one another every day. And not everybody's going to get along. I mean, everybody, you know, you got guys that have different, you know, they look at things different. You know, some guys have families, some guys are out chasing it, some guys, you know, and it's just a different, it really is. It's trying to get guys to understand, put your ego down when you walk through the building. Everybody get yourself a paddle, because we're fixing to have to streamline, row this boat as good as we can do it. Everybody has a job to do. Everyone has a responsibility. And you can say, well, that's, you know, it feels like it's elementary, and it is in a lot of ways. However, you're trying to get guys accustomed to one another, because it's not easy to be around, you know, just to be around 70-something guys every day, lifting with them. Like I said, I mean, you're in a meeting room, you're eating, you're lifting, showering, training room, meeting room, back on the practice field. You know, at the end of the season, I got news for you. Them guys, you're kind of tired of seeing one another. It's like, man, I need a break. I need a break from this guy.
Yeah, well said.
Just to piggyback on that real quick, it was really good at the Stars game, to reference exactly what he was talking about, specifically to see someone like Tyler Guyton there, right? Like, I mean, to see all the offensive line together and then to see Tyler Guyton there as well, because, there's guys on this team that we just have not heard a single word about, and that you're relying on to be a big part of your team, and Guyton being one of them, right? And I think the fact that he's with his teammates, he's hanging out, and you hear, he's been spending a lot of time with them in the weight room too. So it's good to see that stuff kind of confirmed out in the wild a little bit. Then it's good to see it, further confirmed, hopefully with, these first few days, once you start seeing pictures and stuff coming out. Hey, Guyton is one of those guys. Like, I want to know how year 2 is going to look for him. How's he reshaped his body? So, I think it's important to, Mozzie Smith, another one of these guys, right, that finally gets his first off season without a surgery or some kind of issue where he actually gets a full off season. Has he put on some weight? So I just think it's interesting to kind of finally get to see these guys after the off season and just check in with where they are on their journey of getting ready for training camp.
What day they playing what music? Who gets choose music in the weight room? Who gets to listen to that? What's going on in the lunchroom? What we having to listen to?
Yeah.
Are they rap day? We're going to hear a little Randy Travis. We're going to hear a little George Strait. What is it? I mean, and so under you. I mean, you laugh, but there was a lot of times where I was tired of hearing that shit. I was tired of hearing it. I couldn't hear it anymore. And so, when you're dealing with all that, you have to literally. It is a team. It is the ultimate team sport. It really is. I mean, because I know you guys have heard me say this, and you'll hear me say it 1,000 times. There is nothing natural about playing football. It's not a natural game. It's not. It isn't natural to get the shit knocked out of you and get up and go do it again. All you got to do is turn on the NBA. Guys laying around on the floor. Got bumps in the guy, lays around on the ground. Baseball guy gets hit, lay around on the ground. But, it's not the way it is in football. You got to have a certain mentality, and there has to be a certain toughness, and you got to lean on the guy next to you. Because I'm telling you, there is nothing natural about it. Nothing. It is not natural to get the shit knocked out of you and jump up. It isn't. So it's different, and that's the thing that so many people don't understand. It's a great game because guess what? It teaches you. I mean, one thing I taught my son. I didn't want him to play too young. Time he was in junior high, you know what? I want him to get popped 1 or 2 times. Get yourself up, dust off, and try again. Because that's the way life is. Life will knock you on your ass. Dust yourself off and go try again. And so that's what's great about football. But I'm telling you, make no mistake about it. There is nothing natural about football.
Having flashbacks to my first ever tackling drills in Pop Warner back in the day when I got lit up by a guy that was twice my size. I remember that. Let me ask you this, Coach. And I don't want to try to get water out of a rock here, but one final OTA specific coach question. Is there a way, in all the limited, really not much going on, is there a way for somebody to stand out or make an impression to you or to the coaching staff during these 3, 4, or 5 OTA events?
I mean, let's get off the Cowboys. Let's go to Travis Hunter. You guys seen any of the routes Travis Hunter has run?
Yeah.
I mean, he looks really uncomfortable running certain routes. I've seen certain routes, even at the college level, taught wrong. And I'm saying, for instance, if you're on the left side of an offensive formation and you run a speed out, I've seen it where guys teach you sticking your inside foot in the ground. I mean, to me, that's foreign. So you have to learn how to run, how to throw your outside hip. You have to learn how to lean your body. There's so many different things because the game is played at such a incredibly high speed. And so all of those little things, you think, well, you're not doing much with pads on. Yeah, but I mean, think about learning almost how to run differently with your shoulders over your toes, running in and out of breaks, understanding how to get off the football, understanding if you're a defensive back, how you want to play with certain leverage, where you want your hands to be if you're a linebacker. I mean, you see all those little movement drills and all those things they do. Literally, that's what you're trying to get guys doing at a very high speed. And it has to become a reactionary thing. So you have to do it. It's a muscle memory, and you have to do it over and over and over again. And so, I mean, all of those little things that you're trying to get guys to understand. And I've always said, you play the game with your eyes. And I mean, I saw where, like the other day, I heard somebody was criticizing a guy for body catching a football. Mike Irvin body caught every inside cut. He didn't reach to go, and a lot of guys teach that, reach to go attack the ball with your hands. Michael Irvin figured out real early, if I run a slant and I reach to go attack that ball, any defensive back that's worth a rip, I don't care how strong your hands are, is going to strip that ball out, because that's how close they are, and that's how quick the timing is. He'd let that ball get into his body, and then boom, it was covered up and he was gone. So all of the little nuances that coaches are trying to put into what they want, whether it's hand placement or head placement or face mask placement, I mean, I'm serious. It's like, and you do it at nauseum. And I remember coaching a tight end, trying to get him to understand, hey, if we're stepping to the right, yeah, I want a little bit of a drop step with your right foot, but then I want your left foot immediately in the ground. I want your power foot in the ground, and those are all little things that you're coaching every single day while you're giving them the big picture. I'm talking too much.
No, never. No, don't say that. No,
there's a lot to it. I mean, there's there's a lot to talk about when it's the stuff. That's the thing. There's a lot of particulars, and I think he's right. Like that's why it's hard for people to kind of romanticize it a little bit. Is that it's a lot of figuring out what a guy can do, and then what are the details that you want to teach him, and then just kind of getting to work towards repping it out and trying to fix problems and that sort of thing. So not sexy all the time, it seems like, but it's not, you can sense social media teams trying to, you talk about getting water out of a stone. You can sense social media, teams doing so with some of these, videos from OTAs, because it's like, what am I even looking at here?
Right.
A 3/4 speed, a pat and go drill. So I think it's early days. So it's a lot of evaluation, figuring, like I said, with the new guys, it's opening the presents and seeing what you got. And some of that comes with the warts too. Some of that comes with, oh man, this guy's really got a ways to go in this particular element, I really got a lot to work on with this guy as a blocker. I think that's the reality that you're seeing these coaches kind of figure out as they figure out these new players that are coming onto their teams.
And then another thing is, the difficult thing is, and I've had multiple people call me and say, God, man, staff's got a lot of guys that have never coached in the NFL. And it does. And that's going to be different. It's a different feel. I mean, you're not coaching a guy in college anymore. You're not. So I can tell you that, the offensive line coach now, maybe not teaching the same technique that Mike Solari taught. Mike Solari probably didn't teach the same technique that Hudson Houck taught. And so all those little technique things, and then understanding, what guys want. I can remember, maybe it was when Jason was still here and he had hired the guy that was at Cincinnati to coach the offensive line.
Oh, Paul Anderson.
Yeah, who was a Jim McNally.
Paul Alexander. I'm sorry, Paul Alexander.
Yeah, Paul Alexander. He was a Jim McNally disciple.
Yep,
and they did a lot of, they did a lot of, lifting and a lot of, and I mean,
high hand, low hand
was,
stuff.
it was bad. It was bad fit for what was going on here. And I think literally he got fired, they ran him off like mid-season and had to bring Hudson Houck. They had to call him back from Palm Springs and get him to come coach the line because, they just, those technique, and not that, I mean, I'm telling you, Jim McNally, I've seen him clinic a million times, and that's who taught Paul Alexander. He's a hell of a football coach.
Yeah.
But, I mean, at the time, that chemistry didn't work with the group here. And so those are things, too, that I think when you haven't had guys that coach in the NFL, and sometimes you can implement one, maybe two of those. When you get a lot of those guys, it could be a little different. And so, again, getting used to all of that and guys getting used to what is expected of them from their coach.
All right. Great opening segment. Great way to kick us off. When we come back, speaking of social media groups, how about the Cowboys in-house media department? What are their 5 big storylines for OTAs? We'll have some fun with that. I want to get your thoughts and see if you agree. What maybe you're looking for, maybe something else. We'll get into that and more. Also, we want to hear from you via the comment crew. So please jump in and share your thoughts. We already have a lot of people on board. Love it. Thank you for being with us on this Monday Night Squad Show. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right. You can say goodbye officially now to sticky notes, scribbled plans on the fridge, and overlapping calendar invites. The Skylight calendar is here to bring you clarity and bring clarity to the chaos and help families stay organized without the stress. This sleek digital display syncs with your existing calendars, Google, Apple, Outlook, and more, making it really, really simple to track appointments, practices, dinners, and reminders all in one easy-to-see place. It's really, really cool. Surprised nobody came up with it earlier, but it's really, really awesome. What I like, I mean, you can eliminate the I didn't know excuse from your family routine once and for all. Won't be able to use that one anymore. And how about seeing your whole week clearly on a 15-inch HD screen to help you stay focused and less overwhelmed? Plus, I really like it helps you manage the kids, their schedules, work, and the all-important household chores. So who's on dishes, who's on back, the whole thing, no confusion. Everything is crystal clear on that beautiful screen. So right now, Skylight is offering our listeners $30 off their 15-inch calendars by going to skylightcal.com/NFL. Go to SkylightCal, that's short for calendar, skylightcal.com/NFL for $30 off your 15-inch calendar. That's Skylight, SKYLIGHTCAL.com/NFL. All right, welcome back to the Cowboys Postcast. Landon McCool and the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. All right, the Cowboys in-house media on today, day one of OTAs, came up with their 5 key questions for OTAs. So we'll kind of run down the list, let you guys weigh in. Number 1, topping the list, will Micah Parsons be there, and will he participate? What does that say to you, if anything?
I think, yeah, it's interesting to see if whether, and I don't know if I saw anything about him being there today or whether he was or not, but I mean, I think it's interesting in the sense that you are learning a new defense. You do want him at least, there and like kind of being part of that install. But I wouldn't be shocked that if he didn't do much, athletic work without a new contract. And I think that's a lot of what he's sort of hinted as what he will do, is kind of probably show up and then, be part of the discussions and be on the field, but maybe not participating on the field when they kind of line up and run around, which, I mean, I understand because that sounds pretty reasonable when you're in the middle of a contract situation. So,
yeah, I mean, my gut feeling is, I mean, you've heard me say this. I mean, they've agreed in principle to what I think a deal is. What they're waiting on, or why they're waiting, or a news cycle this, or I don't know, but I don't think that's. I just don't see that. I mean, in my world, there's a difference in rat turds and elephant shit, and some things are just need to be different. So I'm sorry, I'm swearing, Jeff. I'm too old to sit here and say crap, bum, whatever. So yeah, I mean, I think this is something that's going to get done, and I just think it's a formality. Now, what he does in these OTAs, I do think probably just depends on the mental side of it, the meeting side of it. He's lifting, he's doing those kind of things, and he's here during the off season. So I don't think it's. I don't think it's. It's
clearly not very contentious, right, Coach? I mean, like, he was hosting the draft lottery, not the draft lottery, the schedule release podcast that they were doing. Right. It was him and CD. So it's like, it's clearly, not a case where both sides are furious with each other. I mean, again, more fire for our feeling that this is a done deal and that it's more just a formality. So, I agree. I just think it's until it's resolved officially, until a deal becomes an agreement, I guess is probably the way to put it. I think that it makes sense, financial sense, that Parsons isn't out there running around unnecessarily, but that he's still there in order to kind of be part of the install. I read a quote from him today. I think it was, it probably wasn't from today, but it was from earlier at some point, where he talked about how he doesn't like learning these new defenses on iPads. He wants to be on the field, and so he wants to be part of these kind of install on the field practices, which is what I think OTA 2 and through 8 or whatever.
I don't like learning this crap on a computer either, but unfortunately that's where we are. I mean, I can turn this camera around and show you. I've got every one of my notebooks, game plans. I mean, I got it all here. It ain't on no stinking iPad.
It's not the same thing, right? And I think that's probably why he probably won't skip.
I mean, I'm just me. You know what I mean? I'm you can call me simpleton. You can call me whatever you want. I've been called a hell of a lot worse than that. So, yeah, I mean, some people learn differently. I really do. I've always been from that school. And I think that's the other thing. When you come in, I'm back to these guys coming into the NFL. Not every one of them is the same. They're not. I mean, guys learn, they learn differently. And that's, that's kind of part of what you have to know too as a coach. I'm going to say that, you've got acclimation period going for these coaches right now. Because guess what? Yeah. They're trying to learn these players too. You know what I mean? Yeah. They're trying to, hey, who can really understand and who knows what I'm talking about. And you know what? In the NFL, the players have to have feedback. You have to let them tell you a lot of times. That's the other thing about coaching in the NFL. Hell, I learned more from Jay Novacek and Troy Aikman and all those guys than I could have ever taught them. You learn in that way. Yeah, I was telling a lot of times, discussing, hey, what your responsibility is or what your job is on certain calls. But you learned more from the players than you taught them. I can promise you that.
All right. Well, the media is going to be in there tomorrow for day 2, but also on the list, Dak Prescott. And, will he be there, and will he do anything? Will we see anything from him? I'm going to go down the list really quick. Landon, something you mentioned earlier. What does CD and George Pickens, what does that combo look like together on the field in any way, shape, or form? Number 4, can Tyler Guyton and Mozzie Smith show flashes of taking the next step, whatever that is? And number 5, who can rise to the top in the running back and cornerback rooms. So that was pretty good. A lot of meat there.
Yeah, for sure. I mean, I think, I think you're just to kind of go down the list a little bit. Dak obviously coming off of a very serious hamstring injury. I don't think there's any concerns about him being ready for training camp, being ready for the regular season. But just to kind of see him get out there and throwing the football a little bit, he is at a point where they don't want to push him all the way. So how much is he doing in OTAs? How much is he doing in mini camps? Again, probably very similar to Micah, except maybe with a little bit more participation because you need the quarterback in there doing stuff, right, to facilitate things. With the Pickens stuff we talked about, like I think that the important thing with the Pickens stuff too is that this isn't like other wide receivers. This is a situation where this guy has had on-field outburst and chemistry issues with teammates and coaches and that sort of thing. So I don't think it's unreasonable to at least kind of see how he's meshing early on with the coaches and the players. I'm not expecting him to throw punches day 2, but I mean, you never know, right? So I just think it's kind of good to get eyes on that situation. Guyton and Mozzie, I mean, those are two guys that are starters. Obviously one of them at a very key position. And I think that there's just a lot of unknown there, right? There's just the wide spectrum of potential outcomes of those two is broad. And I think you've got a guy, like I said, with Mozzie, a guy who having a first real off season and getting an opportunity to get into the weight room and hopefully put on some of the weight that they asked him to lose. And then with Tyler Guyton, it's just, we've all kind of penciled him in at the starter at left tackle, even though there hasn't been a ton in his play that has kind of necessarily earned that spot. I think he has shown us a lot of good stuff, and he's shown us a lot of terrible stuff in 2024. So I think, any kind of check-in as to where he is going to inform us a lot on, what our next steps potentially in free agency or team building, because, if you don't have a solution in-house at left tackle starter right now, that's a pretty big problem. And I think if that means, for the Cowboys, it's as simple as potentially just kicking Tyler Smith out to left tackle, but that's also not so easy. You got to figure out who's playing left guard at that point. And so there's just a lot of moving parts if Tyler Guyton isn't going to be your starter at left tackle. So obviously there's going to be a lot of interest there in him being in year 2, him being a first round pick, exactly where he is at this point. I'm trying to, what was the last one? The 5th one that you said?
Oh, running back and cornerback.
Yeah, so obviously these two positions are spots where the Cowboys had some injuries at cornerback. There's just a ton of moving parts at cornerback right now. I mean, we got kind of video out today of Diggs, and it looks like he's running around doing ladder drills at this point, which would put him well in front of schedule. I think for where a lot of people expected him. That I think it's not unrealistic to suggest that if he's already breaking and changing direction, that maybe there's a hope that you start out with him on PUP in the regular season and he's back before the end of October, and that he's on the field. So, and obviously you've got at least 3 other corners that are injured or are coming off of injuries that are, kind of more down roster guys. You also include the 3rd round pick that you've got in Savon Ravel, who's penciled in to be kind of the opposite starter of Bland. Where's Bland playing? I that's the thing is with all this is Bland going to need to play in the slot as well, just to kind of facilitate this stuff. Where's Izzy McCwamu playing? They re-signed him. There's just a lot of questions at the cornerback spot, for basically every guy. And then running back, you sign 2 veterans, you draft 2 guys. It seems to be a pretty wide open competition. I think the only spot that you feel like you have any familiarity with, that someone who might be back on the roster next year is Hunter Lipke, the fullback. So I think it's running back and cornerback are 2 spots where it's blue sky, it's wide open. You really just don't know what is going to kind of rise to the top there. I think you have some solutions, especially at cornerback, but I think that you still got to see exactly how it all pecks out. And frankly, I mean, coach could check in on this a little bit too, if you would, but I don't think you get very many answers at running back in these OTA practices. I mean, I think you may have an idea of how a guy moves, but a guy like Phil Maffa, like you're not getting, Williams too. Like, I just don't think you're getting the full brunt of what those guys do until we put pads on. We see these guys try to run through people.
Yeah, I mean, nothing. Other than footwork, nothing. I mean, I'll say this. I mean, and this is to give, I think, Mozzie Smith a lot of credit. I mean, I think he showed last year that he had some, what I would say is some fight in him. He had some bite in what he wanted to do. He was understanding of what I think Mike Zimmer was challenging him to do. Now, you got a whole new crew here. Again, different techniques, different things wanting to be played, but I'm not concerned. I'm not really concerned about Mozzie Smith. And I think that Guyton has great feed. I think it's can you get him to where he's got enough strength and enough lead in his ass to stop a bull rush, to be able to sit. And the NFL is a different, it just takes time to get used to playing those positions. Defensive line and offensive line is the toughest transition from college football to pro football. It just is, because you are dealing with the best of the best and guys that work on their craft, whether it's a pass rush technique or an arm over or whatever it is. They do it all the time. And they're always doing all them karate drills and hand placement drills and all that. And so, do I think it'll take – I could see him making a stride in the right way this year being Guyton. I saw Mozzie make a stride in the right way last year. From a defensive back standpoint, you can see some things in here. You can see how guys open their hips. You can see if guys, can take in and understand what, Matt Eberflus is doing. And again, I don't know how much he's going to, I didn't study him when he was at Indianapolis really. And then I didn't watch a lot of Bears because they weren't worth a crap. But I don't know what he does from a secondary standpoint. And I think all of those things, we're really not going to see. Yeah, they're going to let the media in out there tomorrow for what, about 15 minutes, and then they're going to usher everybody out. But I think when you get to camp is when you're really going to see either guys are going to separate and understand what is being expected of them, or it'll become very evident really quickly in training camp. If a guy like Maffa that can't understand pass protections, or whatever the scenario is in the secondary, if guys, you want to see your best guys match up against your best guys. That's what you want to do in training camp. In those one-on-one situations, you want to see Pickens match up with the East Carolina corner. You want to see that, Ravel and match them up against one another in one-on-one drill.
All right. Well, speaking of Pickens, CeeDee Lamb made his first comments publicly over the weekend about CD, and we will tell you what he said. And also, wasn't an interview, but recovering Cowboys linebacker DeMarvion Overshown had a nice little post on X. We'll share that with you as well. And we want to hear from you via the comment crew. We'll get to that as well. All that coming up as the Cowboys Squad Show continues. All right, welcome back to the Cowboys Squad Show.
Hey!
Yeah, that was quick. All right, over the weekend, guys, CeeDee Lamb and George Pickens were both in attendance at Kyler Murray's charity softball game. And during an interview with DLLS Sports, Lamb said, "Now we both won." it ain't no A and B, none of that. It's one. You look over there, you see one. You look over here, you see another one. So do what you got to do with that. And then just to add to that, former NFL receiver Pierre Garcon went on the NFL Network and said that he sees Lamb and Pickens both as wide receiver ones for the Cowboys. Quote, it's great for the quarterback to have two number one options. So kind of what we've been saying since the big trade, but nonetheless, good to see, number one, like we've been talking about, Pickens coming in with that mindset of, no, I want to prove myself. I want to show you guys what I can do. I think that's perfect. You couldn't ask for a better scenario from him. And then good to see CeeDee Lamb already embracing it and, trying to make it a win-win.
I mean, that is. There's a lot of feel good to it. And, I mean, I get it. Let's go get a root beer float and everything's fine. And then if he catches one ball for 6 yards against Philadelphia, and then tell me how he reacts. That's what I want. I want to know after you, because it isn't if adversity is going to hit. But that sounds great. They're going they went out playing that golf tournament, and they had on their short longs, and everybody was happy, and it's great. I'm with you, but it's a different animal. When the adversity hits and things don't go your way, or it's just. I want to hear these stories about week 5. Tell me week 5 that they're still, they're still giving the Sigma Chi handshake to one another, and I'll be fine then.
Yeah, I mean, look, I think it's nice to hear. It was mostly CD speaking. It seemed like.
Yeah.
I mean, I watched the clip, and it was nice to hear him talk about the situation. I mean, it shows a level of maturity by CD, I guess. I mean, yes, it does to show him talking about Pickens that way, and just giving him his laurels and making him feel comfortable. I mean, the truth of the matter is that CeeDee Lamb had something like, I don't know, maybe 75 more targets than wide receiver 2 in the Cowboys 2024 season. There's so much room for Pickens, I have a feeling that Pickens may get more targets this next year than he's ever gotten, all while being wide receiver 2. So I think that where I'm concerned about the situation is not even necessarily this year. I mean, because you look at it look, CeeDee Lamb is clearly established as, he can say that, hey, we're both wide receiver 1s, but you notice it's him saying that. It's not Pickens saying that. And that's because there's no question that CeeDee Lamb is a wide receiver 1 on this team. He just, I'm pretty sure if he didn't lead the entire NFL in targets, he was in the top 3 of targets overall, right? I mean, just the guy that they had to force the ball to all throughout the season last year. They throw this guy on here who, wants the football, and that's fantastic. But even then, the number of targets that George Pickens is used to still might go up playing for the Cowboys this year. But I'll throw in another thing. I tend to think that this situation, as volatile as it's being implied, I don't think the volatility actually really starts to inject itself. With the caveat, if things don't work out, if the Cowboys are playing poorly, if they're unable to get the ball, if Dak gets hurt, I mean, there are obviously situations. But if everybody stays relatively healthy and they're playing, I have a feeling that this is going to work out fine. Everybody's going to get the production they want. They're going to get the targets they want. They're going to get the money they want. The question I have is Pickens on this team beyond this year? And if Pickens is on this team beyond this year, how does that situation develop now that Pickens is being paid all this money? Now that you've got both of these guys on big contracts, does the jealousy start bubbling up? Because now it's not a situation where you guys are all aligned to get Pickens a bunch of money, right? That's how you can pitch the 2025 season to George Pickens is, hey, me, Dak, CD, we're all on the get George paid train, because the more you produce, the more likely you're going to get paid, the more wins we're likely to have. So I think since everybody's on the same page for the 2025 season, there should be pretty smooth sailing. Once it becomes time to put him on the tag or to sign him to a long-term deal, and then we're actually talking about target share and who's the real number one, that's when we should start having those conversations. I agree, Coach. Like, we definitely need to check in by week 5, because God only knows with Pickens, like, if he's, broken loose about something. But the time I'm actually concerned that this situation could blow up is not even this season. I think it's once the money changes, once the motivation changes, once all these important entities in the passing game aren't seeing things eye to eye. How does the relationship change then, and how does George Pickens act in the locker room then?
Yeah, I mean, I feel that way about Parsons. I mean, he's getting ready to get paid, but this is it's going to be his third defense in 3 years, right? Zimmer came in. Who was it before Zimmer was the defensive coordinator?
You put me on the spot now. I've thought
Dan Quinn.
Dan Quinn, and then
Dan Quinn. Okay, so he leaves. Who was and Parsons was his guy. So he goes and takes the Washington job. Then Zimmer comes in, and he's kind of Zimmer's guy. Now you got another guy in, and I mean, I could see. I don't want to sound negative, but I mean, I could see a scenario here where you pay him big money and he doesn't like maybe the role that he has, and he's not getting the productivity that he thinks he could get. And you're dealing with all of that. I'm really I'm hesitant with a brand new coaching staff and so many guys that haven't been in the NFL. That's where I'm a little like, the guy coaching receivers, never been in the NFL. How is he going to run? How is he going to run that meeting room? How is he going to run that meeting room?
I like it. All right. One more before our final timeout. Speaking of coaching and positions and everything, DeMarvion Overshone posted on X over the weekend, watching highlights, realized if I just would have blitzed more, easily would have tallied more sacks. So to your point, Coach, we don't know, how's that going to work with Matt Eberflus, and is he going to use Overshone in that way? Will he blitz him a lot?
I mean, I'm going to go ahead and tell him he's about to be very disappointed. If you're going from a Mike Zimmer defense,
right? Exactly.
To literally anybody else, guess what? You're not going to be blitzing as much. So
exactly.
Get ready.
All right. Final timeout. Our final segment coming up, and we're going to get to your comments as well. One other CD Lamb comment for me, really quick. Not that you guys need to hear from me, but he playing injured the way that he did last season, tip my cap to him. He showed me something playing hurt the way that he did. Tried to play and hang in there as long as he could.
I thought both him and Parsons both kind of earned leadership stripes by their play last year with that.
Very impressive. All right, final segment coming up. This is the Cowboys Squad Show. All right, welcome back to the Cowboy Squad Show. Landon McCool and the coach, Glenn Stretch Smith. When we play it back, it looks different. But all right, a lot of people jumping in. We have some more to get to, but want to get to your comments first. Our regular, our P1 coach, as they say in radio, Landon, Stephen White has been there from the beginning. Stephen, thank you for all of your input and support. We appreciate that. John Wayne Kuzi says, go Cowboys. Frankie Clayton says, love how the coaches and players are doing things with the players now. Stephen White gave you some praise, Coach. Also, Finis Wickware says the wide receiver will be just fine. Who else? Pick and Pop says capitalizing on what we do best, meaningful beauty in the works. Okay. And McDane Clay says, Devon Williams, would he be?
Sounds like that got cut off, baby.
Yeah, I'm not sure what that. Okay. All right. So, what were you going to go ahead, Coach? Jump in there, buddy.
No. I like how, I mean, people give their comments, and
yeah,
that's what makes the Cowboys so great, and that's what I mean. That everybody has an opinion, and it's hey, I laugh because I think it's it's a passionate fan base that hasn't won around here in a long time, and it's I get it when your damn feet are purple and you ain't had any drinks of the wine in a while because you've been stomping the grapes. You can say all kinds of things.
Well said. Well said. All right, Landon, I know that you and Marcus on the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast have really done some serious deep dives on the draft and the roster and everything else. So what are some of the nuggets you guys have discovered and that you can share with us? What should we look for?
Well, I mean, mostly we've been trying to continue to work through the deep dives on the positions that were mostly affected by the draft, right? So we just finished doing a dive on the defensive tackle position, which is kind of one that's very much in transition, despite the top saying the same, right? I think obviously Osa signed that long-term contract, and Mozzie is coming back. This is an interesting thing too. I mean, we were just talking about changing coordinators, and Parsons is like through his fourth coordinator, whatever it is, third or fourth coordinator. Mozzie Smith, going all the way back through Michigan, has had 6 coordinators, I think, the last 6 seasons, if I remember correctly, including
it's like radio,
like Dan Brown, and then when Dan Brown left, and so he's had a very similar situation as too, and I think it doesn't help him to kind of constantly be changing that situation on him, but I'm hopeful that, and I agree with you, Coach. I think that Mozzie really showed a lot last year that he hadn't shown previously. It made me excited for seeing what he had in store for us this offseason. And so I'm excited about what we've got in Osa. I'm excited about the potential that we hopefully will see from Mozzie. But then to see, these other younger guys that they brought in, like I really liked Justin Rogers last year. It was a guy from Auburn who ended up getting cut. They really wanted to get on the practice squad. They didn't get an opportunity to, and he ended up signing, or he decided that he wanted to sign with Cincinnati. He thought he had more opportunity there. Cowboys picked him back up on their actual roster at the end of the year because they liked him so much. And I just think that you add in him, you add in obviously what you got from Jay Toa, who I think is someone who really, really got underdrafted underdrafted, right? I felt like this is a guy that was a 3rd or 4th rounder. So I don't know that he's going to come in here and challenge anybody for a starting position, but I think, most of the times you're hoping that a 7th rounder makes the team. And I have a little bit higher bar, I think, for Jay Toa. I think that he can come in here and maybe give you some snaps as a rotational part of a backup nose tackle situation. He can even maybe give you a little bit more than you would normally get from a nose tackle as a pass rusher, as a pocket pusher, but maybe not this year. Maybe that's what he should be, shooting towards. And then for them to go in and get a King Basote as well as a guy, another kind of late round guy that I think is probably not going to make the roster, but if he could be on the practice squad and be a guy that maybe you call up a couple times during the season, and then just, another big bodied, I mean, he's not, 320, but he's 306. He's got a nice wingspan, some length to him. He could hold guards and centers at bay. Just be another guy to throw at a blocking scheme, that just a snap eater at some point. I just like that they, they kept the guys that they liked at the top. They're hoping that both those guys are both still young and improving. And then what they did is they really worked on improving the middle part of the roster, the defensive line group. They brought back Rodgers, who you think hopefully is going to be better. You brought back the guys. You drafted the 2 guys that you did. I think that they're not done here. I think that there's a high chance that they go into later in August, and once we get closer to the regular season and some of these 34-plus-year-old 350-pound nose tackles that don't want anything to do with training camp are ready to start getting their butts into a team, then you can start kicking the tires on somebody if you wanted to sign a nose tackle that has some skins on the wall that you could rotate in. I wouldn't be shocked if the Cowboys did that, but I do like what they've done to kind of set themselves up at the position moving forward, because I think that's been part of the problem, is that they haven't really invested anything in the position previous to a few years ago, and now they're really doing good work there, because I think that they need bodies at the position. They need talented bodies at a position where I think it's becoming increasingly more difficult to find them.
I don't look for much out of those 2. I don't. I think they're just kind of, they're just kind of run stopping type guys. Maybe they help you in training camp some. I mean, maybe that is what they can do. I watched a kid at UCLA, and again, regular down and distance. He's kind of a run stuffer. I've always thought that what you really need out of those 2 inside guys, and one of them really has to be kind of a push the pocket guy. He's got to have that. And that's what I saw out of Mozzie. I saw Mozzie step up and be able to, play into a double team a little bit, while Osa, maybe he was getting that guard on the backside. So, do they have some depth there? Yeah, they got some depth there. I could see, I'm like you. I mean, I could see one of these veteran guys maybe coming in here like they did with, Linval Joseph, or they've tried to do with, a veteran guy that, again, can give you some inside pass rush. I think there's a lot of those guys who can, who are physical enough to play a double team. I want the guy that can push the pocket a little bit and help your edge guys. So I know what Parsons is going to do. I understand he's going to be that up the field guy. Dante Fowler is going to be that up the field guy. I want that guy that, again, can push the pocket a little bit. So, we'll see. I mean, I'd like to be pleasantly surprised with either one of those guys, but I'm not expecting a whole heck of a lot out of that. And I am. I'm looking. I'm looking forward to see Sam Williams. I mean, they were high on this kid last year when he got hurt. So I don't know. I'm kind of throwing my. If I've got a, if we're gonna put a long shot in the race, I'm gonna say, hey, give me Sam Williams and let's see what he can do.
Well, it's funny you say that, Coach, because you are the opposite of what ESPN, one of their reports, is projecting that Williams is going to be a, quote, major bust this season. That's their prediction, for whatever that's worth. Maybe
I don't know how – I don't like – people need to define these words a little better.
Yeah.
He's already played too many successful snaps to be a bust. I mean, he's contributed to the team. Like he got hurt last year. Like, I don't know. I mean, that like bust to me is a whole other thing. Like people need to stop just like, it's like breaking news. Stop saying breaking news. Not everything's breaking news, guys. Like it's like not every guy that didn't do what exactly you hoped they would do. I guess that's the bar for what's a bust. To me, a bust is a guy that is a highly drafted player who contributed nothing. Like that, I think of Mike Mamula or, those are busts, like guys that never played for you or played a couple different snaps. Like maybe if a guy is just not as useful as you thought he was, that's not a bust. Like that's, You're getting valuable snaps. Sam Williams had sacked the quarterback in the NFL. Sam Williams I'm pretty sure Sam Williams is, made multiple huge special teams plays at certain points. Like, Sam Williams has done things in the NFL. It's like, I just think that moniker is dumb and gets thrown around way too much.
Yeah, and I mean, again, a guy. I mean, if you step up and say, "Guys, a bust," well, what is your definition of a bust? I mean, he's 6'4", 260 that can bring it off the edge. I don't see that, but. Again, I mean, the beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. Some guys like to go to the mall and chase fat girls around. There's nothing wrong with that. I mean, that's what they like to do. It's not necessarily what fits everybody else. The beauty's in the eyes of the beholder. So, I'd take stuff like that if I was coaching Sam. I'd take stuff like that and say, you know what, Sam, old Buster over here at ESPN thinks that you're not worth the tinker's ass. So, Let's see if that lights a fire under you a little bit.
And Sam's a guy that I'm excited about seeing because like before he tore his ACL, like we saw pictures and videos of him. He put on another 10, maybe 5-10 pounds of muscle from where he was the previous season. I think he's likely to be the kind of souped up a strong side defensive end, and
he can get up the field. Now I'm just telling you. I mean, you guys that can get up the field and cause you problems. I mean, I kind of like that somebody would say that. I really do.
Especially knowing Sam.
Because I'm gonna get to about week 5 of the season, and I'm gonna go see if I can look up old Thumper and find out what he's playing on 3rd and 8 since he called him that.
Yeah.
All right. Well,
I'm sure Sam's excited about reading that, and I'm sure somebody slipped that in his locker.
All right, guys. Well, on that note, we have to leave it here for now until we meet again on Thursday with Marcus in for Landon. Just before I go, though, Clarence Yee says Jamarcus Russell is a bust. I would go with that. I think, Landon, I'm a little bit older than you. I would go maybe Tony Mandarich. Remember?
Yeah, sure. Tony Mandarich
back in the day?
Great example. That's a bust, right? Like all the hype in the world, and then he didn't do anything. Yeah.
And Coach Stephen White says, "Fat girls rock."
Yeah.
So there you go.
Yeah, see what I mean? I mean,
everyone flavors.
That's what I'm saying. I mean, you get to the skating rink, and it's a couple skate guys' choice. So, what was his name again? What did you say? What was his name?
Stephen White.
Yeah, Stephen. Tee it up, brother. Go get you one. I'm right there with you. I'll stay over there and cheer you on. B-A-T, beat 'em, B-U-S-T, bust 'em, beat 'em, bust 'em. Go on, brother.
All right. This is why the Squad Show is unlike any other show. And that's why we love it. All right. For Landon McCool, the coach, the one and only Glenn Stretch Smith, I'm Jeff Biggs. Hey, thank you to everybody for checking in with your comments. Those of you that watched live, had a lot of you. Thank you for that. We appreciate you being part of the show. And thank you to those of you that are going to be watching later on. We appreciate it. We'll be back with you on Thursday morning. Have a great rest of the week. Don't forget, Landon McCool, Marcus Mosier, the daily Locked On Cowboys podcast show. Check that out every day for the very latest as OTAs continue at the Star. This has been the Cowboys Squad Show.